Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm diving back into Cochrane Alberta's real estate market, looking at what happened in the month of October, and then moving forward to what to expect for the month of November. The first thing I want to touch on in this video is new construction listings and what to expect in Cochrane, Alberta right now. Now, in the past few videos, I've really talked about the fact that there is a significant number of new construction listings in Cochrane, Alberta, and they make up more than 50% of the market. Now, this month, I saw a slight change in that, seeing that those numbers are down to about 43%. But there's one outlier, and that is in the duplex market. Cochrane, Alberta, with the new construction building in West Hawk, South Bow Landing, they're still building in Fireside, they're still building in Heritage Hills and the north side of Sunset Ridge. Those newer communities have higher density zones, and those higher density zones are calling for single family homes, yes, but the lots are narrower and smaller to increase that density. So in order to get a more modest sized house, builders are building more duplexes. It also brings in a price point into the market that is valuable to first time home buyers, as well as a lot of those duplexes obviously are cheaper than a single detached home. Now, by giving up the side yard and building a larger duplex than they would build a single family home, it gives you a bigger space, but the same narrow lot. So that is the one outlier in that whole statement there, is that 63% of those duplexes are new construction. Next on the list, we're going to talk about sales. Now, in the month of October, Cochrane saw 73 sales. It was down about 4% year over year. But in general, looking at the 10-year trend, it's actually a pretty good month for October for Cochrane. In comparison, Airdrie was down 10% and Calgary was down 13% year over year. So again, Cochrane is doing pretty well in this slower market. Next up, inventory. So with a slightly smaller sales number than last year, and I say slightly because it's only 4% down, Cochrane did see an increase in its inventory, an increase in its month of supply, and an increase in new listings. But due to those sales numbers, there was still a sales to new list ratio of over 55%. So it didn't make that growth worse. Cochrane right now is sitting with a months of supply around 4.25, and that's a pretty good spot in terms of the long 10-year trend of Cochrane. It's always sat around the mid to high threes to lower fours in terms of its months of supply. It was really just those last 3 or 4 years of the COVID era where we saw lower than two at times. So again, this is kind of a more comfortable spot for Cochrane to be in, and with the number of new construction homes being built in Cochrane, it makes sense that there's a little bit more inventory here right now. Now, with that 4% drop in sales numbers, a 17% growth in new listings, and a 70% increase in inventory compared to last October, Cochrane's benchmark price did something that doesn't, again, follow the trend of the greater area, in that it actually rose 2% year over year. Now, a lot of that has to do with new construction homes costing more as costs to build have gone up, cost of land has gone up. So that is boosting those numbers, especially in the duplex and townhouse market. But if we compare that, a 2% growth in Cochrane compared to a 4% loss of benchmark price in Airdrie and a 5% loss in Calgary is a big deal. It shows that Cochrane still is drawing people into the town, and the Cochrane is still growing at a rate better than Calgary and Airdrie in terms of maintaining its overall value. Now, if you're a new buyer looking to enter the market, you may sit and think that that's a negative thing, and I don't believe it is. I think that if I'm buying a home, and I'm talking here as a homeowner, I want to know that my investment or the home that I buy isn't going to just crash on me after a year of owning it. Now, while nobody can predict the future, I think it's important to look at the trend. And even over this last 4 months, Cochrane has done a really good job of holding off a loss in its benchmark price or a loss in its detached price year over year. So even while the market's been a little bit slow, Cochrane is still managing to maintain its value, if not even increase its value in these times, which I think just points to the fact that there is interest in the community and the fact that your home is going to actually retain value and not maybe lose value like some of the other major markets around. All right, let's dive in and look at the detached benchmark price now. Cochrane's detached benchmark price is about 672,000 for the month of October, and it saw about a 0% growth year over year. So while it's not gaining value in terms of its detached price, it isn't losing value either. And I think, again, that's a promising sign for both buyers that your investment in Cochrane is going to be sound, and for sellers, even in a slow market, your home is actually going to sell for probably more here in Cochrane than it would in Airdrie and Calgary. To highlight that, Calgary saw a 1.3% drop in its detached benchmark price, and Airdrie saw about a 4% drop in its benchmark price, which again, in a slower market with less sales, more inventory, Cochrane is doing a better job of fending off those price corrections that are happening in the market here and retaining its value compared to the other major centers. And so, despite lower sales numbers and higher inventory, Cochrane is still doing a really good job of maintaining its value, where the other major centers of Airdrie and Calgary are losing some year over year value. So, looking at that from a investment standpoint, I view it as a positive. If you're a seller, that's got to be a good news because your home is going to sell for more here in Cochrane than likely in Airdrie and Calgary, based on the fact that the market is holding stronger here. If we're looking for a reason on why Cochrane Alberta's market is managing to hold off the price decline that Airdrie and Calgary is seeing, I think it really stems from the fact that Alberta is a very big hub for interprovincial moving. There is a lot of people still moving out of Vancouver, Toronto, or BC and Ontario into Alberta for the better job market and the lower cost of living in terms of provincial taxes. And let's face it, the home values are cheaper here than they are in those other centers, making it more affordable to enter the market. Now, Cochrane sees a lot of that because Cochrane, while still close to Calgary and having all the major amenities that the big centers have, is closer to the mountains and closer to recreation. And in my opinion, if you're moving to Alberta, you're moving here for mountains, and you have a better chance of having mountain views here in Cochrane, and you're closer to them by moving here as well. So Cochrane has a lot to offer, which is really helping it fight off those declines in price. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is how this market is affecting buyers and sellers. And the two main trends that I look at there, or two main stats I look at there, are the days on market and the list price to sale price ratio. Now, first up, in terms of days on market, right now Cochrane is sitting at about 62 days for a home to be listed on MLS to the time it sells. Now, that is inflated by the new construction listings because they do sit for longer because the possession dates are further off in the future. So, with that being said, if we remove the new construction listings, Cochrane is seeing about a 43 days on market right now. And that's to compare it to about a year ago where we were sitting at between 25 and 27. So, not quite double, but getting close. So, buyers have more time to view homes on the market and they don't have to be as rushed. And as for a seller, expect your home to sit a little bit longer on the market because, again, you are competing with more listings. Now, with looking at that, seeing that there's almost double time on market here, you'd expect that the accepted offer price compared to a list price is going to really decline. And truthfully, it really hasn't here in Cochrane. Over the past few months, it's kind of held steady at around 98% list price to sold price ratio. So, what that is meaning is you are buying a home on average for about 98% of what the list price is. Obviously, every listing is different, and how long a property has sat on the market really affects that. But those are the two things I look at. In terms of your specific situation, if you had questions about that, please reach out. I'd love to have a chat with you and jump on a video and go over your specific situation and see if I can provide a little bit more insight, as obviously the property type you're looking at and the communities you're looking at do have some effect on those numbers as well. I hope you found these videos helpful. I hope the market update videos provide some good insight into Cochrane, Alberta's real estate market. If you do find this content helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, click subscribe. It really helps me get this content in front of more buyers and sellers here in the Cochrane, Alberta real estate market. And as always, I will catch you in the next one.